What's going on, everybody? We are back for another edition of the History of AFL, and we are moving on to Season 2 of Madden 11. So, Magic, we survived Season 1. We made it through. We survived the All Madden versus All Pro debate. I think at this point in time, we felt like maybe we didn't have something that was going to become an elite Madden core, but we had something that maybe could at least get us through Madden 11 and even into Madden 12. Who knows? And we made it to Season 2, and off and running we were. Magic, do you have anything that stands out to you from Season 2?
Oh man, we got through our first bowl. Ridge has become part of the group, and then by becoming part of the group, he decided to establish dominance by winning the first bowl.
Mm-hmm.
What a dick! No, it was starting to be a good time and learning. I miss all our XATs or whatever they would be said out loud. Miss our
Mm-hmm.
faces.
Oh man, we would kill so many hours in chat just talking and doing the emoticons and the parenthesis faces. But one thing that stands out to me from Season 2, Magic alluded to Ridge winning the bowl in Season 1. Ridge dominated with a running game. And when I say he dominated with a running game, if you looked at his game book, he had maybe 2 or 3 pass attempts per game. And it was at this point in time that we decided, okay, that's cool. Like, you can run the ball. We're all proud of you. But we need to put in some kind of rule to make it to where you have to have at least some sort of balance. So we made the rule at this point that you have to have a minimum of 5 passes or 5 rushes per game, and that is 110% the Ridge rule, and I think he would be proud to admit that he made that rule change possible. So Magic, at this point, Season 2, we had talked about the SJR, Josh and Ridge dynamic. SJR beat me in the playoffs, and so Season 2 is off and running, and he and I played Week 3, and I beat him like 63-10. And it was just the most random game there was, and that was the kind of game that gave me a lot of confidence. I actually ended up going undefeated that season. Beat... Who did I beat in the second round? Let me scroll down to this tournament bracket and find out. In the second round, I beat Turner's Seahawks. And then in the second round, SJR beat Ridge's Niners. So there's that SJR Josh Ridge dynamic. And SJR was waiting for me in the NFC title game, and my Lions got over on him, won the game, went to the Super Bowl, and then smashed Goutman's Jaguars for my first AFL Super Bowl and the first undefeated championship season in AFL. And it was at this point in time where Goutman got blown out. The story on Goutman was he was Westside Charles' dad. But some people in AFL were speculating that maybe Westside Charles was just playing under 2 accounts because Goutman and Wes were both very successful. And it seemed a little fishy to some. I always believed that Goutman was real, but it was definitely a drama fest as far as whether or not that was West playing under 2 accounts. Do you remember anything about the Goutman drama?
I do remember them never being in the same place at the same time.
Interesting.
Not saying anything. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
I vaguely remember it coming up, but I mean, it always comes up when someone has a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Except I guess Cheese Junior is the exception because I mean, Cheese is good, and then Cheese Junior is not as good.
So at the time, like we mentioned in Season 1, we still do not have the most talented field. Division winners, RVD back-to-back division winners with his Raiders, Goutman back-to-back division winners with his Jaguars, Swag back-to-back division winners with his Bengals, and Strath back-to-back division winners with his Jets. Mustang back-to-back division winners with his Cowboys. I won the NFC North after SGR won it the year before. Here's a name for you, Magic. Posky won the NFC South, and then Ridge, of course, repping the NFC West with his 49ers. And a little known fact here is because of Posky being such a pain in the ass, the playoffs took about 3 days to get off the ground because he just disappeared. He had a game against Turner, and we didn't know where he was, and he finally shows up in chat like, "What's going on, guys?" And Ridge just cussed him out, and luckily he lost to Turner, or else the playoffs could have taken 2 weeks to get through. Turner, Seahawks got a wild card bid, SJR got a wild card bid, Hadley's Miami Dolphins got a wild card bid, and then Splashy's Cleveland Browns.
Splashy.
At this point in time, Hadley was doing work with Brandon Marshall, and guys were just, they weren't sure what he was doing. They were calling it rocket catching, where he was just launching it downfield and high pointing the ball with Marshall, and people were like, you got to watch this guy play. I think he's breaking rules, and we didn't know whether it was breaking rules or not, so we watched it, and he wasn't winning enough to really get the attention of us, but that was the playoff field. Season 2 didn't really have any great drama to it. We had, Ridge losing to SJR was kind of a surprise in the playoffs, so we didn't get that Ridge-Josh matchup that a lot of us were looking forward to. Swag ended up losing in his first playoff matchup, which I think was the first sign that he wasn't the only good player in the AFC, as RVD's Raiders went there and beat him, but RVD couldn't get the job done in the title game against Scoutman. And then beyond that, it was a fun season. It moved real quick, and then it sets up Season 3, which to me I think is a landmark season in AFL. Magic, any final thoughts on Season 2 of Madden 11?
Was this Packers Gate season, or is this another year?
Packers Gate. Remind me, what's Packers Gate?
I played drop that game.
This might have been Packers Gate. So this was the situation where
another rule situation.
Oh yes, where Magic and Drop were both out of the playoff race. Drop was the Giants.
Yeah.
And Drop was actually our first original streamer. He had the cheddar cheese vision, and
Oh my god, that's right.
and I used to love whenever Drop would play his games. I would just sit there at work and just watch his games. And it's amazing how far.
Outpage or something like that. Offage.
Yeah, and it was just like, it was high quality, and I loved it. Like Drop had a spot in AFL for life because it was so cool. It's like, man, he's playing his game and we're watching it. So what happened in this game is Magic and Drop were both out of the playoff race. So they played in week 12 and they decided to not play any defense. Literally, you guys both scored about 80 points. And you both vaulted two offensive players on each of your team into the top 5 consideration for MVP. Guys were pissed, and we had to do something, and we had to put in the rule about running up the score and stat padding, and that was probably the first sign that being a commish isn't all bells and whistles. It can kind of be a pain in the ass, especially when it's one of your buddies that does something, and you're like, damn it, now I got to go talk to Magic and be like, what were you doing? But I think you pretty much knew, like, oh, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Like, if they call me, if they don't. Cool.
Cool, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It was fun.
Won't happen again.
The other thing with the Packers was Magic and I were in the same division, and one of my most memorable moments, Magic and I would play these games on our headsets, and we would just talk and bullshit. Because back in the day, he and I would team play a lot with Ridge, so it wasn't anything for us to just be on headsets talking while we were playing our AFL game at the time. And I was in a bunch formation, and Calvin Johnson was in the slot, lined up next to the tackle, not in the tight end formation, but lined up, tight slots. And Calvin Johnson goes deep down the field, and Magic's like, wow, that tight end's fast. And I was like, buddy, that's not a tight end. He's like, oh, okay. It was at that moment that I realized that Magic's Madden awareness may not be as strong as the rest of us, but you're still my guy, and it was hilarious. I enjoyed it. And that was one of the more fun rivalries I had in AFL because I enjoyed miking up and just talking about whatever while we played an hour-long Madden game. So that's a look at Season 2. The Super Bowl champion was my Detroit Lions, beating Goutman's Jacksonville Jaguars, and we will see you next time on the AFL History Show.